back into the channel. In today's video, I want to give a bit of a breakdown in regards to coverage types within Madden 24, and we're going to do some more detailed videos later on specific coverages. I want you guys to know going into today's video that I by no means am an expert on coverages, defensive coverages, and all of that type of stuff, but I do know a good bit from having played Madden over the years, from having played football myself and coaching football as well. I can give you guys the general ideas, and I know there are a lot of new and potentially inexperienced Madden players alike that could use some more information in regards to coverages, how they work, what they mean, and when to use them, and that's what I'm aiming to accomplish in today's video. To understand coverages, we have to understand a little bit about the personnel that we're using in those coverages. So let's first talk a little bit about personnel and how those things apply. In all of these different personnel groups that you have on defense, you're generally going to have a lot of the same coverages. In a base 4-3 formation, which is more of a base defense with only 2 corners and 2 safeties on the field, you're still going to see a lot of cover 1s, cover 2s, cover 4s, cover 2s, cover 3s, all that stuff within those formations. And you're going to see a lot of the same stuff within your nickel formation, which is going to remove a linebacker from the field and put on an extra defensive back. This is going to still give you a lot of, as you can see, cover 1, cover 3, cover 2, and all of those similar types of coverages. These things operate a little bit differently depending on which personnel you have out there. There are certain coverages that are going to be more useful for stopping the pass, and certain coverages that will be more useful for putting your players in position to stop the run. And therefore, there are certain personnel groups that we would rather have with certain coverages, and we'll go over that as we kind of go through these things. The first thing that I want to kind of start off with for you guys is a general idea of when to call specific coverages, when specific coverages are useful, and how they are useful. So the basic gist, the traditional logic behind offenses is to set yourself up for easy third down conversions. And how do you get an easy third down conversion? Well, you make it as short as possible. 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. That makes a pretty easy conversion. And so on 1st down and 2nd down, what you're often trying to do is set up for an easy third down conversion, which means you're either going to be running the football or you're going to be completing short passes. So we're going to want coverages and those types of things that put us in a position on 1st and 2nd down to stop the run and stop short passes. Well, which coverages would be good for stopping those sorts of things? Sometimes your man coverages, as you guys can see here under 4-3, a 4-3 cover 1 is going to be a solid coverage to stop the run, and so is going to be a cover 2 because it's going to put players in short coverages or man-to-man situations. So let's get into a little bit more detail on how that works and why that is. The first thing to discuss here as we talk about our defense is, what does cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, what does that mean? Well, typically it is indicated by the number of safeties that are in a deep zone. So this is a cover 1 hole, and what that essentially means is that we have one safety guarding over the top trying to roam around and help if it is a passing situation, and the hole basically means that we have a linebacker in a hole coverage underneath. This would be kind of the hole in the defense, and then everybody else is manned up. So as you can see, if we're in a cover 1 here, one free safety. If we then transition over to a cover 2 or a cover 3, we're going to have that many deep zones. And so we're going to now select a cover 2 so you can see that in action. In a cover 2 type of a situation, you can now see that we have 2 safeties that are deep, and that is going to split the field. They both have a deep half. One of the other things to understand here is that in every single coverage, and we will get into this in a bit, there are holes in the zone coverage. That is the trade-off with running zone coverage. You have players that are generally responsible for zone areas, but there are always going to be holes in that coverage. As you can see here between the 2 safeties, there is a hole between these 2 coverages. So that is what you're potentially giving up. And that is why for certain defenses, they are better for certain things. Like this is a better defense for stopping short passes because we have 5 players, as you can see across the board here, that are in short zones, that are responsible for short coverage areas. And we're giving off the trade-off that, hey, if for some reason we can't stop them with this short coverage, if we can't get to the quarterback, if we can't stop the short pass, this deep zone is going to be open. This deep hole between the zones, rather, is going to be open. And then there's a hole between the flat and the deep zone over here in cover 2. We are giving ourselves that trade-off. We know that if we're running cover 2, we're trying to stop short stuff, and if they call something that's not short that attacks those holes in the zone, they are going to be effective against this coverage. Moving right along here, we're going to select a cover 3. In a cover 3, you're going to have 3 deep blue zones. Now, they're not all going to be safeties, and so that might be something that I misspoke on earlier in the video, but it's going to represent your number of deep blue zones, essentially. Now, these 3 players are splitting the upper part of the field, the deep part of the field, the defensive backfield, into 3 equal parts. Our corner on this side has a deep third, our safety has a deep third in the middle, and then our corner on the opposite side has a deep third. And as you can see here in a cover 3 situation, all of the zones are dropped further off of the line of scrimmage. That blue line, as you can see where DK Metcalf is lined up, you can see that there's about 5 yards between DK Metcalf on the left side of the screen and that purple zone. This is where things start to get more heavy into pass coverage, because we are now trying to say we're stopping anything that is beyond 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. Everything underneath is going to be open. That is why a cover 3, for example, is going to be more utilized for deeper passing plays. If it's a 2-yard situation or it's a first down where we don't think they're going to be throwing deep, we're not going to call a cover 3 type of a situation where all of our players are going to drop deeper and expose those shorter areas of the field. So what other types of coverages are there? We've talked about cover 1, we've talked about cover 2. Cover 1 is generally going to be a man type of situation because you only have one guy deep, so everybody else is generally going to be in a man coverage type of situation. You have cover 2, oftentimes called a Tampa 2. They are different. There are differences in how they operate, but we're not going to get into that today. If you see that 2, it's generally going to be a cover 2. If you see the 3 yellow zones in the middle, like here on the bottom right, and you see the 2 light blue zones in what are called the flats, then you're going to generally be in what is a cover 2. You can also have a cover 4 formation. This is called cover 4 quarters. Generally, it's just cover 4 though. Now you can see we have 2 safeties splitting a quarter of the field and 2 outside corners splitting a quarter of the field. Again, this is going to be even better for deep pass defense because you have more players defending the deep parts of the field and preventing holes in between those deep parts of those zones. And again, you can see that we are now more exposed underneath, and we're going to be exposed to the run game because we have so many players playing deep and their instincts are going to lead them to those deep zones. This is something that I've actually found out coaching football more than anything, is that if you give a player a zone assignment, they are going to be heavily influenced to go to that zone no matter what the offense is doing. If we are doing a run play, these guys oftentimes, especially at the level that I coach, just instinctually drop back to their zone regardless of whether they recognize it's a run or not. They take their steps back into a zone. So that's why it is often even better to run man coverage against running situations in real life and oftentimes in Madden as well, because these players at the snap of the ball are often going to take steps back to go to their zone because they're in a deep zone coverage. That's why in man coverage, they're just going to react to the guy that they are manned up on that's in front of them. Now that has its negatives as well. That can pull players away from the play if they're just following the man that's in front of them. So keep that in mind. There is a trade-off with everything you do on defense. Now, where things may start to get a little bit confusing for you guys when you're calling coverages are when you start to use inverts and cover 6s and cover 9s and those types of things that are going to be a little bit oddly named as far as how they operate. A cover 2 invert is actually pretty straightforward. Any inverted coverage is relatively straightforward. It just means that players are inverted in the way that they cover. So in a typical cover 2 such as this, you would have 2 safeties deep covering those deeper part of the fields. But as you can see here, our safeties, we only have one covering deep and we have a corner covering deep. So typically, if we were in a cover 2, Julian Love would be back here covering this deep left blue zone. And this is what's inverted about it. This corner would be down here in whatever this short zone is. It would probably typically be a blue zone, as you could imagine in a cover 2, but instead these are inverted. And so now this player is dropping deep and this safety is coming down to cover the short zone. That's what makes it an invert. So a lot of times you'll see cover 2 inverts, and that is going to put the offense into a bit more of a guessing game. Now, unfortunately, in Madden, a lot of times it just shows exactly what you're doing. This almost looks like a cover 3 look, so it is a good way to disguise things. But a lot of the times what you might want to do is just have these players line up as normal and then have them invert at the snap of the ball. Have this player drop back and have this player come down, but that's not always what Madden's going to do. So keep that in mind, that calling the invert plays can be useful, but it can also be a little bit wonky and lead to players being potentially out of position or not in a position that you want them to be in. So they're good plays to call and they keep the offense in a guessing game, but it's not always the best thing to lean upon. Now, this is again where things can get confusing. So cover 6 is one to talk about. And why is it called cover 6? Because there are not 6 deep blue zones, you might be asking. Well, essentially what this is it's a combination of 2 coverages. On one half of the field, we have a cover 2, as you can see, with the deep blue zone, the shallow blue zone, and then the green zone underneath. So this side's a cover 2. And then on this side, we have a cover 4. You can see a quarter and a quarter of the field. So they're splitting and they're doing a cover 4 on that side of the field. And what does that add up to? Cover 4 and cover 2 combined, cover 6. That's how cover 6 gets its name, by the combination of the 2 coverages. As you can kind of see here now that we've talked about both, cover 6 you can see is a split. You can kind of see the cover 2 on one side and the cover 4 on the opposite side of the field. Okay, so now let's talk about some practical applications of these various different coverages. Of course, I have not covered every single coverage, and I have not covered the details of each individual coverage and how to best utilize them and get the most out of them. But we're going to talk generally now about when to use certain coverages and what personnel packages you want to have with those coverages. So we talked about first and second downs, where we want to stop the run because the offense is trying to set up short third down conversions. Well, we want to get our defense in position to cover that. So now that you know a little bit about those coverage types, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think we want to call coverage wise to stop the run on first and second down, or stop those short passes? I'll give you guys a moment to drop that down in the comment section, and then I'm going to go into my little spiel about it. So now that you've had a second to drop that in the comment section, what I would typically do if I know that the team is going short, if I know that they're trying to set up third downs, which is the conventional wisdom. Keep in mind, nowadays teams pass on first down, they'll take deep shots on first down. Offenses have evolved since that traditional logic, but we're going to go with just traditional logic just for the basics for today, because this could help people understand for general football applications as well. What I would call, if I'm trying to stop the run, is a bit of a heavier personnel, and I'm going to call a zone coverage or a man coverage that's going to keep my players close to the line of scrimmage, close to be able to stop the run. So I wouldn't want to call that cover 4 formation, because that's going to get players running backwards and get players away from the box, away from the run. I'm not going to want to even call a cover 3, because again, that is going to, as we saw, get players going 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage. It's going to put us in a tough spot to defend the run. What I'm going to lean on here is a cover 2 formation or a man coverage type of situation, because that is going to get us in position to defend the run and not react poorly, dropping back into zones whenever we need to be coming up and stopping short passes, quick passes, and running plays. So a cover 2 formation is generally a good bet on first and second down, unless you're going against a super heavy passing team, because this is going to keep your linebackers in the box. It's going to keep them relatively close if they do decide to drop to their zones, and it's going to keep your corners underneath to defend those short passes. This is going to be good, like I said, to stop those runs and stop all of those short plays. As you can see, we're right there ready to make the play, and sometimes that could turn into an interception, that could turn into a fumble, that could turn into a broken up pass. Again, here they're going for a short play. We're able to get some pressure on the quarterback as he rolls out, and he's unable to complete the pass. Now, why would I use a heavier set depending on what the down and distance is? Well, oftentimes, even if a team is going to come out with 3 wide receivers or 4 wide receivers, I'm still going to come out in a 4-3 formation with some heavier personnel on first down if I know that they're going to be trying to run the football against me. Because what a lot of offenses will do is they will try to come out in a wider set and still run the football. They might try to come out in the shotgun, something that looks like this with 3 receivers, and spread you out a little bit, and they're still going to go with an inside zone. And if you fall for the bait of matching personnel and putting an extra defensive back out on the field, that's going to take a linebacker out of the box and a run defender out of the box, which is going to hurt your numbers. It's always a numbers game, especially with stopping the short stuff and stuffing the run. You want to have the numbers in the box, and you want to have the bigger, heavier, block shedding players that can pursue the run, get off blocks, and make tackles close to the line of scrimmage. So this is why you want to generally call heavier personnel with these shorter zone coverages or man coverages against first and second down plays if you know that you're going up against a team that's going to try to run the football or try to do short things that are going to set those plays up. Now, obviously that changes if you're going against a passing team. You might have to come out in some cover 3s and some nickel formations with lighter personnel in order to be able to defend their passing options, but it's going to expose you in the running game. And then if we know that we're trying to defend the medium pass, we're generally going to want to come out with an extra defensive back, which is either going to be your nickel or your dime formation. Sometimes you can go even lighter than that, but as you can see with the dime formation here, we're taking an extra linebacker off the field, and that only leaves us with 1 linebacker, but more defensive backs, more capable of stopping the pass. But typically you'll want to go with a nickel formation because that can give you a little bit of balance to still be able to stop the run if they do try to hit it. And cover 3 is generally the go-to here for mid-zone coverage and trying to defend the standard passing game. If you know that a team is trying to go deep on you a lot, like the Kansas City Chiefs when they had Tyreek Hill, in Madden it was always very effective to just call cover 4 against the Kansas City Chiefs, because it would put extra guys deep and it would put players in position to defend those deep passes that they would like to send to Tyreek Hill. So even if one guy got lost, if one guy missed his assignment, you would have 3 other guys deep that could potentially react and help you against those deep passes. And you could oftentimes shut out the Kansas City Chiefs CPU simply by calling cover 4 all game, because you know they like to just air it out, and you could just put players back there and sit and just pick it off or break up passes all day long. And that's the power of just calling the correct coverages in the correct situations. One other type of coverage that can be very effective depending on your personnel and the offensive's personnel is what is called a cover 2 man, which is a kind of hybrid of what we've already talked about. It's man coverage but with 2 deep safeties covering blue zones. If you're going against a passing offense and if you're in situations where they need to get yardage and they need to pass deep, this is very often a good option for you. The reason being is you're going to have 1 person in man coverage against every skill player on the offensive side of the ball, and this then also gives you 2 additional safeties over top, splitting the field, giving help. That's essentially what these players are here for, is to help on any assignments that might break, on any player that might be quicker than the guy that they're lined up against. For example, if DK Metcalf was one-on-one with my corner over here, I'm not 100% sure that Tariq Woolen is going to be great to cover DK Metcalf. I'm not sure that DK Metcalf isn't just going to outrun him down the field. but I have a safety over top that can lend help if that happens. He can shift over in his zone and help cover whatever comes to that deep end of the field. So this is a good option to go against a lot of passing attack, but it requires more from your defensive personnel. You have to have a couple of corners that are good in man coverage, and your linebackers have to be quick enough to cover tight ends and running backs. Often this is the limitation with cover 2 man, is whether or not your linebackers can help with tight ends and running backs. As you can see here, Devin White has to be able to get over here and cover Kenneth Walker, and I'm not 100% sure that he's going to be able to. If Kenneth Walker just did a bubble route out to the right side, he would be wide open because Devin White has like 89 speed, but at this point in this franchise, Kenneth Walker has like 95. So even on a deadline sprint, I'm not going to get over there and cover that running back. That puts me at a disadvantage, and that is why zone coverages can be so effective, because if I just called a simple cover 2 and I was worried about Kenneth Walker being the one receiving passes, this corner is just going to sit here in the flat and he's going to be waiting for that route that's coming out to that side. And that's why I wanted to talk about zone coverages today, because they can be very effective if you call them in the right situations with the correct personnel, and if you call them in the correct variations at the correct times of the game. It can be a little bit complicated. It can be a lot to understand and a lot to take in, especially if you're new to it, but I often try to teach this to my middle school football players because it is crucial for them to understand whenever they're going to be playing at the high school level, where things get a little bit more advanced. We're talking about NFL stuff, so of course there are so many more layers of intricacy that can happen here. Within Madden, it is still very simple. It is not totally realistic to the way the NFL plays, but at least now you hopefully have a better understanding of how zone coverages work within Madden, a couple of points on when and where to call those coverages, which coverages are good for what. And if it did help you guys in that way, please leave a like on the video, comment, and subscribe. As always, I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you have a good one.